Hello, happy 52 weeks live. This might be our last one for the year. I don't imagine I'm doing one on Christmas Eve, but maybe I am, but I don't think I am. So this is our last one. So almost Happy New Year. This is, as I said, 52 weeks. This is the 51st week, and today we're going to talk to the amazing Kesha Franklin, who I'm inviting to join. Excited to speak to. Oh, and I have a feeling this is going to go real smooth, real smooth. I shouldn't have jinxed. By the way, that's my dog behind us. So if you see a little animal moving, that's Percy. Though I will tell you, I woke up this morning and there was a bird in my room. That's a new one.
It's not connecting.
Oh my God, did I really jinx myself? Well, anyway, Kesha has a very cool story that I'm looking forward to hearing from her. I feel like one of the reasons she didn't become a designer earlier, and I alluded to this in what I wrote on 52, is I think it came easy to her. And I think that I mean, in terms of like her vision, not necessarily, affecting it. Oh, she's unable to join. I fully jinxed myself. But I think perhaps she was suspicious of it being, I think sometimes when you're good at something and you can see it and it all makes sense to you, it feels like, oh, that can't possibly be work. Hello, Kesha. And I'm pronouncing it right? Kesha?
Kesha, yes.
Okay, because I saw you on a podcast and I was like, oh, Kesha. And I was like, nope, Kesha. So I'm glad we got that out of the way.
Yes,
How are you?
Bring you up a second. There we go. I'm good. Thank you so much for this. I was so excited to be a part of this.
I'm so excited.
Yeah.
And I love what little I know of your story. It's very relatable, having like ups and downs. And I was just saying that I think, is it possible that you were suspicious of design as a profession because it was easy for you?
It's funny. When I saw that you wrote that, I thought to myself, I never looked at it that way, right?
When hearing you speak before, it sounded like you expected work to be hard.
Yeah, well, growing up
Sure.
with, as islander parents, having parents from the island, I think when they look at you and trying to instill work ethic,
sure,
and figuring out what career path you should take. I always tell the story of it being either a doctor, a lawyer,
totally,
or like in finance. And when you
are you first generation American? Are you American?
Yes, I am American.
Okay,
yes.
So yes, that is like
correct.
The immigrant story, which I kind of like. Why didn't I get pressured into being a lawyer? Like, why didn't I get that very good advice?
But it's when you think of those professions, it's hard. You think about hard work, right? That's what it is.
Yeah, like endless schooling and saving for school.
Exactly. Exactly. Lots of studying. And so, I think in some ways I figured, this is supposed to be challenging and very difficult for me. And it does come with the ease, right? I think as a creative, there is a good part of it. Of course, once you start running a business,
right? There's plenty hard,
but
it is funny. We associate frequently work with something difficult.
Agreed.
And I'm so glad that you came back around. Because this was, I'm certainly one who believes in, parents' effect on children.
Yes.
And if you had that in your ear the whole time from your father, unsurprising. Yes. And what did your mother do? Did she work, or was she a mother at home?
So my mom was an at-home mom for a long time. And then she actually also worked in finance for a period of time. But my dad was a contractor.
Yeah.
And he's an artist, and even though he didn't also have any formal training, there were always plans laying around the house. We had a drafting board in one of the small rooms in the home, and so I was always you know, somehow had a sensibility of seeing those
Yeah.
things, understanding what they were, and being inquisitive and asking questions. But even though he was in that field, it still wasn't something he kind of pushed on me or said, you know,
No,
you
no.
do this.
And that's the other side of the field too.
Yeah,
That's a
yeah,
necessary side
right.
and very interesting to know that information, but
Yeah.
not necessarily, you know, when I had this bird fly in my house, into my bedroom this morning, I was on the phone
Oh,
with a
this
client
morning?
this morning, and the client said, well, you need to do this and get this. And I was like, I'm a decorator. I was like, I don't have any actual skill set. I can't do that. I can tell you if it's pretty. Like,
I don't believe that, Alexa. I don't believe
well,
that. I know
anyway,
I know you can do some things.
a couple. I can sit in front of a screen and talk all day long. So, what about your grandparents? How did your father get into building?
So no connection there either.
No
That was
connection.
something he got involved in when he came to United States. I think he was 20 years old when
Wow.
he came here. But my grandfather was a chief of police in Belize, so he was in law
The
enforcement.
Belize police.
Yes, yes. So totally different
Yeah.
directions. Sure. Yeah.
Though that means there's a history of bravery in your family. The
Yeah.
police chief, the man who moves to America as a 20-year-old, and then you, in a lot of the iterations of your professional life, how did you first get involved in doing the management of the big fashion shows?
So I used to work for a company called the Weaned Agency,
Mm-hmm.
doing a lot of large corporate events. I had connected with them when I wanted to expand from doing just like weddings and, you know, social gatherings. And so I actually went to Baruch College, and I had
Mm-hmm.
gotten a certification in corporate production and event planning, and then connected with them to kind of partner in doing some of that work. And one of the partners in Brown Wynn had a connection with a company. Oh gosh, my brain is. I'm now going. Ground Crew, the
Uh-huh.
Ground, and introduced me to Audrey Smalls. I don't know if anyone on knows them, but this organization actually facilitated the dressing, model dressing for all the
Mm-hmm.
backstage production setup for Mercedes Benz Fashion Week. And this is from when, I mean, she was doing this almost as a call to a need
Yeah.
for these big fashion houses. Like, I'm talking about years she's been doing this. She's well known in that industry, in the fashion industry. And so I got connected that way and just kind of fell into that and fell in love with it. I was doing that probably for about 7 years. Oh,
And what did that entail? Like, how many diverse elements went into what you were in charge of?
so it was setting up the wardrobe,
Uh-huh.
actually in some cases doing model dressing, which is what I was doing when I first started,
Mm-hmm.
and then wanting to do more because that's who I am. I'm
Yeah.
always like, well, what else can I do? I can do that too. And so it would be actually setting up backstage, working closely with whoever the director was for said fashion house, and then we would actually lay out that backstage area. I know, like for instance, I used to also work on the Victoria's Secret fashion shows that you would see on
Yeah.
TV. And so we would bring in all that inventory, figure out like
So
when,
it's the ugly behind the scenes of if you
yes,
make
it
one
is.
blessed mistake,
Right,
it
right.
goes up in flames.
Exactly. And kind of similar to, you know, I relate everything that I've done to what I do now. I mean, I
Sure.
feel like the same. In the office, you know, there's the ugly, there's the behind the
Mm-hmm.
scenes, and then this pretty picture pops up of this living room or this bedroom, and you're like, wow, oh my God, it's gorgeous. And you have no idea what went
Yeah.
on to get to that point, right? And so it's the same thing when you see these beautiful productions and these fashion shows. There's a lot of work that goes on, and even different than like interiors because it's 15 minutes and
Right.
it's over, you
Yeah.
know? So,
And you
but
can't
yeah,
be 10 minutes late.
Right. No, you cannot. No,
Yeah.
you cannot. Because there's big money involved with being on time. Being on time is a good thing. So definitely, learn good time management
Yeah,
from well. Yeah.
for sure. And then you have told in past interviews a story about opening a restaurant, and um, and that it was a huge passion project, and it faltered,
Yeah.
but like beautiful silver lining because it pushed you to where you are now. And also, I think um, when you start a business, like we're all going to have those hard lessons.
Hmm.
It's get them out of the way earlier. Like it is not fun to learn a big fat lesson at like 40 or
They don't seem to stop. It seems like
they don't stop.
it's more or
Don't
less,
stop.
right? So yeah.
As far as I can tell. I mean, I've never met anyone who is like, oh yeah, I've got this all figured out. But I
Yeah.
haven't asked everyone.
No.
But I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt that they're
Yeah.
human. But yeah, I do think I think the story of you opening I think it's very brave and very interesting. Like you don't let me say it, you say it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we had gotten, my husband and I, some information about the Barclays um,
Center.
arena coming to Brooklyn. And so because of my event background and he's in the music industry, it just felt like a no-brainer. It almost felt like, I think our egos were like, of course we could do this. Like it's we got this in the bag, but there was so much that we didn't know, about actually doing something from the ground up at that time. And again, remember, I don't have any idea or kind of sensibility that this is a design project, right? This is
Yeah.
this is not a ground up. It's not a
Well, it's 100 million kinds of projects.
right. Exactly. But definitely wasn't putting that hat on because I didn't know what that hat felt like. I knew I had an event planning hat. I knew that, I could see things. I was a creative for sure. And so I felt like we could make this work. So we dive into it. And like you said, it did not materialize because we just didn't have some key things that were needed in place to open up a 4-story building that had a restaurant on the ground floor, which was going to be called Joya. It was an Asian fusion restaurant.
And aren't restaurants like the famously most difficult thing in the world? Like
it is. But we had partnered with a chef. We had partnered with someone who had owned a restaurant for many years. And so there were certain things that, again, we had certain pieces, but the logistics of actually figuring out how to open up the business was just was a challenging part. So it never came to, right? 3 years of investment, time, money, sweat equity, and I had to close up shop and really just because I'm never sure if I mentioned this, part of the reason for the decision was because it just started to become a poor financial decision. It wasn't that we couldn't actually make it happen.
Yeah.
There was so much invested in this property that financial advisors who we had now brought in were saying, Kesha, you guys need to own this building. The amount of money that has gone into this, and if you do not own this property and the terms of your agreement, this is bad.
Suicide. Yeah.
This is exactly. This is suicide. So we had to walk away.
But you listened to the advice.
I did.
That alone is like the greatest thing. I don't know if I were that deep into it, if I would have listened.
Yeah, we did.
So that's brilliant.
Yeah, we were bleeding at that time, and we had no choice. But I go to the architect that I was working with on the project, literally with check in hand to give him his final payment. And he, I'm sitting down at his desk and he turns his computer screen around and he goes, have you ever thought of getting into architecture, interior design? And I'm looking at him like, no.
You're like, I'm having a bad week. I really want to talk about that.
Exactly. And he's like, listen, I can't take credit for this. He's like, you knew what you wanted. You were, you understood the process. He was like, I've actually never, really worked with someone who really got it. And he's like, I was impressed by you, and I think the design was really great, and you should consider this. And I went home and literally licked my wounds. And for like 6 months. And then finally my husband was like, you know, enough. Like, what are we doing here? And he's like, you know, I think you should listen to what Shanad said. He's like, Kesha, everyone comes in our home and they ask, oh my gosh, your house is so beautiful. Where did you do this? How'd you do that? What do you think about this? And you're always giving advice. And he was right. You know, I was the girl everyone came to for house advice. And so I just put it out there to some friends and families, and they were like, oh, Kesha, yeah, of course. Of course we see you doing it. Of course. And so it just kind of organically happened.
Yeah.
That's how I got into the business. Yeah.
That's lovely. You know, it's just you have a gift, and it served you well when you let it.
Yes.
When you were open to it. Yes. So I want to hear, I know that you did this Goldman Sachs 10,000 businesses something. I don't know what this is. It sounds really amazing. It sounds professional and brilliant, and I want to hear everything, and I want whatever they told you.
So it is a Goldman Sachs 10,000 small business program.
Do they do this annually or?
Oh yeah, this is a reoccurring thing. The different groups are called cohorts. And it's been going on for, I want to say definitely at least the last 10 years. I actually did the program or more than that actually. I did the program in 2014. And my assistant at the time is the one who did the research and said, Kesha, I think we need to do this. My business was at a point where I wanted to grow. I wanted to rebrand. I wanted to figure out, you know, how to service a different market. And so I was starting to ask those questions, the business questions.
And do you apply for it?
You do. And it is I had 4 interviews because it's free. It's completely free to include even meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Oh my God. Hello, Goldman Sachs.
Yeah. It was held at LaGuardia College, and it was amazing. And it was quite a process. You had to give up all your financials. They wanted everything, including the kitchen sink. But it was totally worth it. It was totally worth it. And I was very fortunate to get into the program and meet some amazing people and be challenged. I was challenged to look at my business in a different way. And they actually kind of gave me, you know, the permission and the support to look at myself. Truthfully, Alexa, I think even though I started in 2006 after that failed business, I can't really say that I felt like a designer or a design firm, because in my mind, I thought that being the designer meant you went to school and you were able to call out the name and say, yes, you know, I have this degree. And because I didn't have that, I shied away from kind of stepping into it. And
and I think we might be the last generation of those. I mean, I think there will always be that. Yeah. But now I think, you know, as you, I did not go to school for design. And now when I hire, it's definitely graduates. But like, we're the final frontier for that.
I'm sure. But it was, they really just, you know, guided me, gave me the tools that I needed to rebrand and to reposition and to explore who I wanted my client to be. I remember one of the classes, the teacher said, he said to us, he said, you should be looking at the client you want, not the client who wants you, right? And so my whole career was about referrals and taking jobs that some of them I really wanted, some I didn't, but just always just taking it because it was coming my way. So that kind of gave birth to Halden Interiors, because prior to that, my company was called The Beautiful Experience.
Right.
And I rebranded after that program in 2014. 2015, I became Halden Interiors. Wow. And so that's kind
Where'd you get the name?
So Halden is actually my paternal grandfather's name.
Nice.
His name was Henry Hugh Halden Vernon. So he had a big old name.
Big old name. Very plosive.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. And my youngest brother holds Halden as his middle name. So his name is Bradley Halden. And so, I wanted something that I felt could create legacy. Something that my children could take on once I'm long and gone, or my grandchildren. I wanted it to live beyond me. So I decided to to do that instead of Kesha Franklin, which
Totally.
explored as well.
It's interesting to hear that you go to, you know, in my fantasy life, what a Goldman Sachs program would have you walk away talking about would be like, oh, they said my business plan should be this, and I should have this much in the bank, or blah, 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 blah. But what's so cool is that you came away with it with actually like a philosophical change.
I did.
And that is not at all what I would have imagined.
Yeah.
And in some ways that's more valuable because, as you said, it gave you permission.
Yeah.
And it made you feel like a viable entity, though of course you already were. I think it's beautiful, and at the same time I'm like, ugh, why do we always have to like look for a pat on the head from, you know, whomever the authority figure is.
Yeah.
But whatever it takes to get there is worth it.
Agreed.
So I know you did the rebranding, which I think is really interesting because it's not even, it's like, I once wrote a brand package for myself with a friend who is in marketing. And I wrote out who I wanted to be or what I thought the firm was. And it helps, I think, when you check yourself every couple of years in case you start veering into onto a different path. Like, wait a minute, you know, if you're saying I'm luxury, you have to say, stay luxury.
Right.
But I don't know how you can get away from taking on jobs. You know, do you turn stuff down because they're not the client you want?
No, I don't.
Okay, good. Just because I'm like, damn it.
Yeah, no, I don't. But can I tell you, I want to. I want to. You know, I want to get to a place where I can actually do that. Because I don't know how to give the high-end luxury job a different service than the small project, right?
Sure.
I show up the same for all, and they take the same energy, the same level of commitment, and not necessarily, you know, and I want to be careful with saying this because some large projects are a headache in a different way, right? I'm sure you understand. And then the smaller ones can be so rewarding.
Well, and I'm always talking about payroll. You know, the small jobs, you might be putting all of your energy into it disproportionately, but they bill fast.
Agreed.
Where the long jobs can take you years, and you need that cash flow.
Agreed. To keep the lights on and keep the team.
Goldman Sachs can't buy lunch every day.
Right. For sure. But yeah, I think to be a little bit more strategic, I feel like it's not even about the big job or the small job, but it's just about what's the right fit. Right?
Sure.
So I think moving into even 2020, that was kind of like one of the things I wanted to look into. Of course, 2020 did a whole bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
Its own rules.
Yeah.
So not every plan.
Hope you didn't have plans for 2020.
Yeah, right. I hope not. That's what I was going to say. Not every plan we had in place actually got materialized. But I think moving forward, I still want to just be able to sit with a project request and say, okay, does this work? Does it work financially? Does it work for the brand? Does it work for growth? Right? And kind of, at least if it's 5 questions, at least let it check 3 of those boxes at least. Yeah. Right. So.
And that's good. It like keeps you honest about, you know, at some point somebody was talking to me about saying like, oh, well, you know, you should have a shop where you sell your stuff, like your product and whatever.
Which I love, by the way. I went to Spring Market. I was in Visual Comfort. I love mine. Yeah, it's
Thank
awesome.
you. I love my Visual Comfort. Love them. But I was like, you know, I don't think I have the shopkeeper gene. I think, or I feared that if I did it, I would wake up in a couple of years with a job I didn't intend to have. You know, like maybe one day I'll do that. But I was just leery of going off course by accident. You know, trying to do too much and then having it consume my life.
That as a connection, You don't see the two kind of being
I
one?
totally see it as a connection, but I think, you know, back to when you check yourself, like, who do I want to be when I grow up? Like, I'm grown up. I need to continue being that person, you know, like, but yes, I mean, the jury's out. That's always something one could do.
Yeah.
I would love to hear, you're one of the few people, well, that's not true. In the questionnaire, one of the questions is, does your design, like what you wear, does your wardrobe reflect who you are? And you have this very obvious connection to fashion. And I think it very much it totally informs your design work. So I'd love to talk about that, because certainly you got involved with the what was it called?
Ground crew.
Ground crew, because there was something that spoke to you about fashion and the production and,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, yes. And actually, it wasn't really so much the fashion part. I love seeing something go from nothing to something. I love the production side of it, right? That's actually what gets me going. So that was really the attraction, even more so than the fashion. But once I got into it, to see up close these beautiful, you know, like Oscar de la Renta, the Valentino, Vera Wang. These were all, you know, Jason Wu. These were fashion houses that I got to work backstage with. And just to see the craftsmanship, the care, you know, to be up close and intimate with these garments. And then also just how they actually came up with these design concepts, and you know, always having like you know, like almost like resort wear, and then having couture wear, and then what was avant-garde. And so all of those, you know, kind of approaches to fashion made me appreciate it differently. You know, for me, fashion was always first and foremost, I like it. You know, it looks good on me, so okay, yeah, let's go for it. But doing that for that many years and being so close to it actually gave me a different appreciation for it. And it definitely now translating that to design as far as textiles and just, you know, again, craftsmanship in a different way as far as furniture and decor. I think it definitely applies. It definitely applies.
And you have a love of details, and you love accessories.
Yeah.
I mean, who doesn't? I mean, and in fashion, I would say, like, I think you said you would collect shoes and hats.
Yes.
You know, shoes
Well,
and
actually,
bags, or
hats and sunglasses.
hats and sunglasses. Yeah. Well, no, I also thought it was great because those are the things that, like, you never grow out of.
Right.
You know, like,
yes, that's true.
Sunglasses always fit.
Yeah, but the problem is that then they just keep piling up in the house, right? I'm like on my second draw of sunglasses. So
my vision put that. I used to buy sunglasses everywhere. But because now they all have to be prescription, that died. Somebody's asking how you got your first interior design gig.
So in my in working doing corporate events, one of my clients was the Thurgood Marshall College Fund, and the director there, you know, we built a relationship. I was working with them for probably about 5 years also. And I was sharing with them that I was, you know, exploring getting into doing some interior work. And, you know, he had listened and, you know, never really said much about it. But I want to say maybe a year after I had, or maybe less than that, a couple months after I'd mentioned it to him, he said, you know, Kesha, I'm moving to Brooklyn. He was in Harlem at the time. And he said, you want the job? Just like that. And I was like, you want me to do this? And he was like, I totally trust you. He's like, look at what you do. He was like, yeah, come and do it. And so that was my first, I would say, real paid gig. Now, prior to that, because this was like 2009, so I started in 2006. So for the 3 years, I was doing, yes, someone's mentioning Dwayne Ashley, yes. And it wasn't Dwayne Ashley, actually. It was, I don't want to mention his name because I don't know if he wants me sharing. But he actually, I'm sorry, I went and I met him at his place and took a look at it. And he said, Kesha, you know, the job is yours. But, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. What I was going to say is between 2006 and 2009, I was actually just doing a lot of friends and family spaces, doing
And
like
were you charging them?
not really.
That's really bad.
Not really. Some,
But okay.
yes, but not all. And really, part of it was I felt was strategic. I mean, I had no experience in this business.
Yeah.
And so I needed to build a portfolio. So a lot of it was just like, oh, yeah, come to my bedroom. And I would go in and put everything together and take a picture.
Great.
Right? So I was building the portfolio. So a lot of that was happening. Then remember 2008, we hit the recession.
I remember.
No one's trying to talk to you about, interiors, because that's a luxury word, when you're trying to hold on to your pennies. So I actually, again, this client of mine was my first. This director of the organization was my first client that actually paid me to come in and do his space. And it was great. It was great. And I got to do the entire, it was a studio apartment, so it was really small, but it was the first one that I got to kind of do it from soup to nuts.
Yeah.
And also it was great because he was really hands off. He just trusted the process. And you love that client who's like, go do your thing. So it was great. It was a great start to me feeling like, okay, yes.
Yeah, to inhabiting who you are.
Yeah.
What advice would you give somebody starting out, like, who says, I want to do this? And I mean, I feel like you're definitely an autodidact. You bought your books, you studied it, you took it upon yourself because you felt like, oh, I didn't go to school, I need to have this information. So you did it yourself. So what would you tell a young you? Not you, but
right. Intern, work for someone. I wish I could have done that. And I tried. I actually did. There were a few, firms that I'd reached out to, small, local, that wanted the credentials. And I didn't have the full experience at that time to really support what I knew I could do, right? I knew I could do the work. I knew I would have been a great asset to any one of those firms, but they wanted something I didn't have at the time. But my advice would be to do that. My advice would be to learn, to study under someone who is already in the business, because it's important. There were a lot of steps that I missed, a lot of hard lessons that I feel like could have been avoided had I had been able to, come under someone's wing. Yeah. So that's what I would say. And that's, if you're really serious about this business, that to me is, kind of a no-brainer that you definitely want to connect with a firm.
Though, as you said, like once upon a time, you could get an unpaid internship, and anybody would take you because you were free labor. Right. And now it's harder to elbow your way in there. I mean, as an employer, if I do have two people coming to me and one person like has studied it and I know that they're going to stay in the business, and then I'm likely to hire that person because I've got to pay them. Right. So it is interesting. It is like one extra speed bump the universe has put in there, because it's not appropriate not to pay interns. And I do agree with that. I just think it makes it harder for the intern now to get the break.
Yeah. Agreed. That's a good point. It's a very good point.
Yeah. It's to figure it out. I mean, certainly there are lots of people who figure it out. Like you've just figured it out. Yeah. It might not have been the easiest route, but then look at, the fact that you had that course, I'm very jealous of. I'd love to be a fly on the wall.
It was intense. It was like a 6-month course. We gave up every Friday.
That's grad school.
Yeah, 6-month course. Every Friday we had to be there from 8 to 6. Which, when you're a small business, you're like, what? I got to give a whole day. Yeah. And that was also intentional on their end, because they would say, you can't grow your business if you're always working the business, right? Mm-hmm. So that was something that they would always say to us, that you have to have time where you could step away from the business to look at it and figure out, okay, where do I need to, where are the gaps? And where do I need to implement certain things? What processes do I need to put in place? And if you're right, no, I love him. He's so cute. He's the cutest. But if you're constantly, in it on the wheel, a lot of those things just kind of fall to the wayside. And it is beneficial. You need to take the pause. You need to take the pause.
So I would add to that, that I spend a lot of time, quote unquote, growing my business, thinking, okay, what product can I do next? Or should I mean, like, I know I should be working on another book, but I sort of can't.
Oh, no,
I can't. I'll get there. But
2021?
It's definitely not coming in 2021.
Wait, 23, 22, 23?
I don't know. But sometimes when I have pursued something that I thought I really, really wanted, and it's going to be a great gig, a great collaboration, a wonderful product, and then it fell apart, or I got the no, it always helped me then to just remind myself, well, I have a job. So it's like the inverse of what you're saying. So, when I do try to grow, and sometimes I come up against a closed door, it is a wonderful thing to just be like, hey man, I'm going to do my day job.
Right.
I'm going to do it well, and I don't have to change a thing as long as I do my job.
Yeah.
So it's funny how you need both of those back and forth.
You do.
What would you like to see?
I received that. Yeah, it's true, right? Because sometimes we're after the thing, or we're chasing opportunity.
Pie in the sky, like world domination.
But not realizing, like, hey, I got something I built here.
Yeah.
Like, this is real, and this is taking care of the bills, fulfilling my passion and my spirit, and then also being able to employ people, right?
Totally.
So you're giving back in that way as well. So yeah, I'm gonna keep that in mind, because sometimes
and likewise, I'm going to keep your point in mind.
Yeah.
It's good to toggle.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so what do you see? What are some of your, speaking pie in the sky, what are some of your dreams for the next 10 years?
Well,
when do we assume that we hit it? Like, at what age are we at our our most powerful? Because I'm thinking we haven't hit it yet. I mean, I'm 49. Like, I feel like you don't hit your apex till later. I hope.
I don't know. I try not to think about the age thing, because I feel like I'm a late bloomer in many ways.
Yeah.
So in the back of my mind, I'm always thinking I'm late. I'm always feeling
no, you're not late. If this is late, hallelujah. Then be late.
I just think to myself, imagine if when I was 25 that this came to me. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Where I'd be now. So I do think sometimes I feel like I'm late in the game, and try not to focus on the age thing, because if I do, I'm going to be like, oh God, it's never going to happen.
No. It's when it's happening.
Right. Agreed. But what I'm learning more and more is that this game, life game, is about moment, opportunity, and who you know, right? I really do feel that. I think there are people you'll see out there who sometimes, in all honesty, be like, what? How did they get this? Oh my God. But you know what? They were probably at the right place, at the right moment, and created relationships with people. And so I'm trying to do more of that,
That's interesting. So that's like networking and getting out there.
Yeah, which I suck at.
I mean, I love hanging out with other decorators.
Right.
But
doing this.
Yeah, couldn't ask for more.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know what the rest of it means. But I did hear you say, like, you took it on as part of your job to go to events and be in people's path.
Well, and also realizing that I was putting myself in the path in wrong events, because it's great to be amongst fellow designers, but there's no opportunities there. There's growth, there's learning, there's share, there's exchange, but that's not where you're looking to get your next client. So I had to then pivot and say, okay, where could my next client be? So it started to, become clear that attending fundraisers or, right.
No.
But it's true, being sitting at the table, you know, dressed up in your gown, and the person next to you says, well, what do you do? And then having that opportunity, you never know who they know or who they are. Right?
I've had so many awesomely horrible moments doing just that. Like with my husband, where I'm, you know, my place card says Mrs. Papayorio, and some businessman says to me, what do you do? And I say, I'm a decorator. And I watch his eyes glaze over. Like, I know he thinks I'm just out shopping and
spending people's money.
Yeah. And he's just like, ugh, who's this lightweight? And I'm like, you know, I'm a viable business person.
That's right.
And I don't say it, but I just sit there and I'm like, okay.
That's right. That's right.
Go ahead.
Yeah. But
dismiss me.
Right. Yeah. But you're right. You do have those moments. It's not always a hit, right?
Especially if you're a woman, I think.
I agree with that too.
Yeah.
I agree with that. But you know, it's you got to do it. There's no other way to get around it. You got to do it because, you know, doing this business, especially if you're a small firm like myself, it can be lonely. You just get caught up in your own bubble, trying to meet deadlines, trying to figure out how to bring the work in. And all of a sudden 2 years go by and you're like, okay, wait, hold up. I'm working, but in the same place, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
You're working, but in the same place. It's like business is coming in.
But that is a huge thing to have achieved. Kesha, you're working and business is coming in. That's the goal. And I'm not saying don't like, we shouldn't all wish for more, but like, hallelujah, take a minute to be like, huh, people are coming in through the door.
You know what, Alexa? So here's the thing, right? So I have I'm rooted in my faith, right? And the things you're saying to me right now, I'm like, okay, God, like I knew you were meant to talk, because these are the things I'm struggling with lately. Like, I'll be honest, I'm struggling with it, feeling like, okay, am I growing? Am I growing at the right pace? So, you know, I'm really taking in the things that you're saying, because it's true. I guess sometimes I don't sit to smell the roses or to really look at what I've accomplished, you know, because it always seems like, let's go.
Right. It's a hamster wheel for sure.
Yeah.
But to have people continuing knocking on the door is ultimately the single most important thing.
Yeah.
In order for us to keep our businesses going. You know,
True.
That's the thing that keeps me up at night. If I haven't had a call for a new job, I'm like, well, when's the call coming?
Right.
I think I'm just having this idea now as we're talking, that a great thing for you to do with one of your bigger jobs or a few of your big jobs is to ask the homeowner to let you have a party there.
You know, I've heard of that many times. I feel like I've talked about that with Joy Moyler, who is.
Does she do that?
Sheila. I feel like we've talked about that before, about the hosting of the party. I've never asked a client to host a party, but there is something I do. So I like to do a reveal at the end of my projects. And my clients would host a small group. So they may invite like 2 other couples or friends of theirs or family members. And it would be a small, intimate gathering. And then those folks, of course, would get to ooh and ah and ask questions about the process and what we did. But you're right. I think the next project, which there is one, actually, wish me luck, because I got a big call at 3:00 for something would be really awesome if I'm able to, you know, get to be brought onto this project. And this project would definitely be one of those that I think I would say, hey, can we host a party here?
I think it'd be much more valuable than sitting next to somebody at a party and being like, hey, I decorate.
Right.
Just like it to be like, I did this, and to have the proof.
Right.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And then you pick up your head in your hair. We're just having a lot of people commiserating, you know, like that we, you know, these are universal themes we're struggling with.
I get it.
So, sorry, Percy is very, very talkative. Let's talk about the Bad Guild.
Yes.
So tell everybody what it is. I mean, I think everybody knows what it is, but there's BAD Guild.
Yeah. Yes.
So it's Black Artisans and Artists.
No, Black Artists and Designers Guild.
Black Artists.
Yeah. We actually just celebrated our 2-year anniversary. I hosted a live last night, introducing a few of the members to everyone. It was a lot of fun. But the Black Artists and Designers Guild actually started by, as you may know,
Yep.
Melanie Barnett is the founder. And it was initially supposed to be a directory.
Also a very good idea.
Yeah.
Did you guys have a directory of artisans and people that?
Well, this was really for people of color, for designers of color.
No, I know, but if I get that.
Right, Black Artists and Designers Guild, obviously.
I mean, if there were a guild of artisans that I could be using and supporting, that would be a wonderful. What's the word? You just said it. The
what? Directory.
Directory. That would be a great directory for me to have.
Yeah, for sure. But what started out as a directory so that the industry could know where to find designers of color quickly grew into so much more. I mean, this is a real movement. It is a support group. It is as I kept saying, it has felt like family to me. As I mentioned before, you can get so caught up in your own bubble. And this organization has allowed so much outreach, connection, internal support for one another. We're learning from each other. We're sharing ideas. We're sharing information. We're trying to figure out how to help each other grow, within our businesses and also as far as external visibility. And it's just been amazing, like really, really amazing. Yeah. And what has
is last night's Instagram live recorded?
It is. I have.
Because a bunch of people are saying they're bummed they missed it, and I didn't see it.
It is on my
It's on your feed. Okay, good.
On my feed. Yep, you can definitely check it out. We were actually on for 2 hours last night. It was amazing. We had a really good time. So definitely, you can check it out to learn a little bit more. But yeah, the guild has been amazing. I'm one of the founding members, and just really proud of what all we've been able to accomplish in the 2 years.
And I'm very glad for the world of design that it existed in advance of 2020.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah.
The tumult and, and the struggle is not new.
Right.
It does not date to 2020.
Right.
Which is another thing in the podcast I listened to, that you were saying a lot of the industry events you went to were in some regards deeply unsatisfying because you didn't see representation at all. And that I have a visual of what you must have been, the headbands and the,
Right.
So,
yeah. It's crazy because we all say the same thing of just, being underrepresented, not having many of our faces in the room or seated at the table. But, we've been here for a long time.
It does not date to 2020.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah. We've been here. There are a lot of designers, even again to mention Joy and Sheila and Raymond Boozer, who have been working in this industry.
All of whom are listening right now.
Yeah, for over 2 decades.
Yeah.
So even though we may not have been seen, kind of in the forefront, and definitely some of them have definitely been able to, walk into some doors and scratch the surface, I definitely feel like we have put in the work. We're being acknowledged on more of a larger platform at this time. But this has been going on. These designers have been putting in the work for many, many, many years.
And leading as designers, of color or not, they've always been, like Sheila Bridges, I've known forever.
Yeah, I just saw Joyce. Sheila has put in 30 years. I mean, that is a huge accomplishment, especially when
she looks far too young for that, and I'm a little bitter. That's a little rude, Sheila.
I agree.
Yeah, I think that is obviously, it's a representation, and obviously of color and other, I remember when, women designers were secondary to male designers. And then, it's this constant need for representation on so many levels. It's a it's a bummer that in this day and age, we gotta watch it.
Yeah, yeah. It's okay. We're
It's
here.
okay, but
We're here, and this is only the beginning. I'm going
yeah.
to say that it's only the beginning.
So when you think of when you have your fantasies about growth, what are some of the things that you're going to do once we're allowed into the universe again?
Growth with business or
With
professional?
business.
With business. So, I think I didn't get a chance to answer your question before, but one of the jobs or projects that I really hope to, to obtain and go after one day would be to design a boutique hotel.
Yes.
So that's definitely on my radar, and I've been taking steps in trying to figure out that space and what's needed, and just understanding the terminologies and who I need to partner with, and trying to figure out how to connect with developers.
Just to put my hat in that ring, if you end up doing a boutique hotel and you want a bunch of designers doing it with you and we all do different rooms, I'm totally available for that. Because that is also my fantasy. Like
Really?
different rooms, everybody's doing different things, and
Yeah, for
it
sure.
would be exciting.
Okay, done. That is noted.
Or I'll be your intern.
No, you will not. No, you will not. We'll hire some interns. Hire some interns. But,
would you want that to be local, or would you want that to be somewhere else?
I think somewhere else. I
Yeah,
feel like
okay.
somewhere else. And not quite sure where, but when I think of it, I don't see it within my immediate reach.
Do you visualize?
I do.
Because that
Yes.
certainly. So tell me how to do it. I need to like hang up the phone and visualize.
Well, it's funny. It's not really something that I tell my husband all the time, I feel like my brain is like one of those viewfinders. It's like click,
Yeah.
click, click. So it's crazy. But that's how I visualize. I feel like it's almost like a snapshot. And then
That's great.
right? Yeah. So, and then I just kind of hold on to the ones that really stand out to me.
Do you do that on your jobs?
I definitely do that on my job.
So you can see that you know exactly what you don't want to do from minute one.
I do. I can.
That is amazing.
Like, oh yeah. And so my team is always saying to me, Kesha, we got to catch up with you sometimes, because you know the room and it's done already in your head, right?
Yeah.
And it is done. Like, yeah.
That's thrilling. So obviously we work for people. How much you have to flex some of it to tailor to them.
For sure.
But when you sit with them, do they know that you're able to do that? Like, do you describe to them what you're seeing first, or do you hear them out? Because I know you said that you like to have a heart-to-heart.
I do.
Which I thought was a very sweet way of putting it, instead of like, interviewing the client.
I do. I actually have a full questionnaire. I remember we were on a panel. I was on a panel with Sheila, and I was talking about my questionnaire, and she was like, "This sounds like a dating session."
It kind of is. Projects last longer than some romances.
Right. She's like, "This sounds like we're on Match," and it actually is very different. I know a lot of designers email their questionnaire, or it will actually be on their website, and they will kind of prompt the potential client to fill it out. This questionnaire actually comes about for me once the client has secured my services.
Yeah.
And then I come into the home and I sit with them, especially if it's a couple. And I go through these questions, and the questions are more about me getting to know who they are, and very little about the actual design process. I want to know, where did you grow up? What was your favorite thing in your room when you were small? Where do you like to travel? What influences your fashion sense? Where are your pressure points in your job? That's always
so I can be out of the country, but you're experiencing them.
Yeah, I want to know that, because for me, design and your home, it needs to feed you. I feel like at this point, I'm sure you could agree with this, and it's not to be very cavalier about the process, but I just think when you do this so long, the design process is kind of what comes to you, right? It's like, you have these resources, you have these vendors, you know where to go, there's a concept, there's a direction, and you implement. But what is the sweet spot to me in the interior design process is how do I get this space to feed the client? What, and then what is it that they're in need of, right? Are they in need of the space to be a retreat? Are they in need of the space to have energy? Are they looking for it to be this place of refuge? You know, do they have this boring job and so they want the house to feel festive and they want to entertain, right? And so it's about the atmosphere, it's the energy that I want to evoke in there. And I'm not able to tap into that if I don't know who they are.
For sure.
So that's what that question
For
is.
sure. And the result would be so much less personal.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah. So that's what it is. And then that also influences my design direction as well. It definitely does. So it's super helpful. It is really a key component, a key piece to my process.
What do you do if you walk into their house and you think it's hideous? I mean, obviously they want it to change, so they're hiring you. But do you ever look around and be like, uh-oh?
Yeah. Actually, I like that challenge because now I'm like, oh, they're going to love me.
I agree. I agree.
I like
that
it.
If it's a real lemon, you could be like, I've got it made.
Right. I'm like, oh yeah, this is good. We're good here.
Yeah.
Because then truthfully, I feel like at that point, they don't really know what's coming their way. You know, they don't know what to expect because
how they can live.
Right.
Yeah.
So
that's maybe one of the most exciting things about our job is showing somebody how much pleasure they can actually derive from their surroundings and that it's not a fleeting thing. It's like a huge emotional experience of satisfaction.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I've actually got the opportunity to see that happen. I've had clients break out in tears. I mean, like just overcome with emotion. And, you know, that's what really does it for me because some, you know, projects, the process can be challenging. There's a lot of bumps that can happen along the way. And, you know, I felt like giving up at times, you know, when work has kind of, you know, gotten the best of me. But those moments bring me back. And they're like, okay, Kesha, this is why you do what you do.
Need you. Yeah, we need those we need a regular diet of happiness to offset like why the hell is the painter drunk,
right?
and screaming.
Agreed.
Let the record show that my painters were amazing, and I do remember that once when it was clear that I was pregnant. You know, when I was pregnant, I was the angriest woman on earth.
Oh no!
I walked into a project and I could smell cigarette smoke. And they had been told repeatedly, it was a long time ago, but yeah, I became a maniac. That would be the last time I ever referred to that moment. I was so ill-behaved.
Listen, it's so funny. Since we're sharing like funny stories. So I had worked on a project. I come from this very creative household. My father's an artist, my brother's an artist. And so my brother, I brought him in on the project to do some, like wall paintings for me. We wanted to do some like designs, these geometric patterns. And so I brought him in on the project because he could totally do it with his eyes closed. So
how lucky for you to have that in your back pocket.
Yeah. I mean, and this is a long time ago. So it's probably like in 2012. And I'm like moving around in the apartment and all of a sudden I'm calling him. His name is Glenn. And I'm like, Glenn. And I'm looking, I can't find him. I'm like, I don't know where Glenn is, right? Where the hell did he go? And all of a sudden, it was the summertime, he's on the terrace with his shirt off, meditating in the middle of the project. And I'm like, what the hell is going on?
He's an artist. Like, you can't mess with an artist's process.
I couldn't find him for like 20 minutes. I just thought he left. And all of a sudden something said, check outside. And he's like meditating. So yeah, I mean, you just never, it's always
getting vitamin D and yeah. But did the mural end up being beautiful?
It was amazing. Of course it was.
Then there you go.
I was pissed. Let's say the least.
Younger brother or older brother?
Younger. I'm the oldest.
Yes,
I have
of course.
2 brothers. I have 2 younger brothers. So yeah, I was pissed off.
Like, don't be meditating on my job.
On my job, exactly.
Well, I don't want to keep you, mostly because I know you've got this major call at 3:00. So everybody, there are 80 people on right now. We are all wishing you all the luck in the world for your 3 o'clock call.
Thank you.
It is going to be amazing. And thank you so much for today. I've loved speaking to you, and you inspire me.
I appreciate it. And same here. This was awesome. And I can't wait to actually connect in person.
No, I'm never going to connect again in person. I'm never leaving the house. I've decided like this is it for me. I'm never going to be ambulatory again. I'm just going to be sitting here.
No, we're not doing that. We're going to come drag you out of your house.
I don't know. Putting a bra on? I just don't think I can face it.
I miss heels. I miss the heels.
Oh my God. Shoes of any kind.
I miss the heels. I really do. So yeah, I'm coming for you with my heels.
Okay. Come with your heels. I'll bring some sunglasses for you.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
All right.
Love that.
Kisses and good luck. Break a leg.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.